Hello, everyone. My name is Luce Early with Fort Worth Public Library, and you're here today for the Grow with Google series. Today, we're doing digital skills for everyday tasks. And as you're starting to get comfortable, take a look at your screen. One of the things we have today is we have the question and answer feature. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see where it says Q&A, for question and answer. And so my colleague, my wonderful colleague, Alexis Carter, will be monitoring that question and answer, that Q&A. So if you see that at the bottom of your screen, then that's what you're going to use to pose questions. And I will tell you that I will answer the questions as we go along, and if not as we go along, then at the close of the workshop. But usually I can cover those as we go along. So keep in mind any questions that you have, just type them into the Q&A box, and my colleague Alexis is monitoring that. So let us begin. We are going to begin. Thank you for joining us at Fort Worth Public Library for the Grow with Google series. Today, Digital Skills for Everyday Tasks is the second in a 4-part series for which you are registered. Last week, we did use YouTube to grow your business. And today, we're going to focus on digital tasks. Now, when we speak of this idea of Grow with Google, is a few things. If you look at your screen, I'm doing a screen share with you. And we're going to talk a little bit about everyday tasks for remote work, but also something that I'm going to share with you and that I will say multiple times throughout is that anything that you see today, these slides, these images, and this information, this is going to be sent to you. These slides will be sent to you as a file, as a PDF file, and it will go to the email that you used to register. The email that you used to register will receive one copy of a file that will contain all the slides in today's workshop. So as we're going along, there's a lot of information, but I'll remind you that you can take notes as we go along. I welcome you to do so, but you don't have to memorize everything because you're going to get a handout that's going to display everything that you see here today. Okay, so the Grow with Google Fort Worth Public Library is proud to be a partner with Grow with Google. And Grow with Google offers tools to use for digital skills for every day and to help you with your business. So this can help you with personal tasks, but our focus is on business tasks. So for today's session, we're going to look at a couple of things. We're not going to cover every tool and every application, because there are many, that is offered by Google free of cost, but we're going to look at a few of them. So the first thing is we're going to, if you look at the screen I've shared with you here, we're going to keep track of your to-do list. Now, typically when we think to-do lists, we might think of household chores or tasks, but today we're going to talk about business tasks. So it'll be a business to-do list.
Luz, I hate to interrupt you, but your sound is going in and out, and we're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. I am not sure. Are you hearing me now? Are you hearing me now, Alexis?
It's still kind of going in and out, kind of gravelly, and we've had one participant log in and log out, and we're still having the same issue on both ends.
Okay, I don't see any special setting that would affect. The one thing I can do here Is that a little bit better, Alexis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's
Great,
much better.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I apologize to everyone for that. And that's, thank you so much, Alexis. You're wonderful. See, Alexis is great support. I appreciate that. So everyone, you should be able to hear me now, thanks to Alexis and our teamwork. That's what makes us the team, right, Alexis? So now that you can hear me a little bit better, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over just a bit of what I had shared previously. What we're going to talk about are some of the tools that you have access to when you have a Google account. Okay, some of the applications, the tools and applications that you'll have access to free of cost by having a Google account. And once again, I want to make sure that everyone knows that we're here today with Oakwood Public Library doing digital skills for everyday tasks. And again, just in case the sound didn't come clear in the beginning of this webinar, I will tell you that today is the second of a series of 4 Grow with Google webinars that we will have sharing with you each Wednesday. And we'll talk a little bit more about the next ones at the close of our workshop. But today we're talking about everyday tasks, and we're going to have digital skills. And we'll talk about a few tools that are available to you. We're going to do a to-do list, a business to-do list using Google Sheets. And we're going to collaborate with your work team, because today's focus is on business, your work team using virtual documents through Google Docs, short for documents. So Google Sheets and Google Docs. And this is also a way for you to share your progress with your work team. So we're going to continue and go to that next slide that tells you a little bit about our steps. The first step we're going to take is when we create a Google account, we're either going to sign in, would be your first step, or you're going to know how to create an account by today's workshop and using the handouts that I'm going to send you in your email. The first of the tools we're going to cover is you're going to access your Google Drive. Your Google Drive is automatically available to you by having a Google account. Automatically available by having a Google account. There's nothing else you need to purchase or anything. It's part of your Google account. We're going to create a to-do list with Google Sheets, and then we're quickly going to create a meeting agenda with Google Docs. This screen here that I'm sharing with you now is when you want to do these tasks, you only need 2 things. You need a device, and you need that device to be able to give you access to the internet. That is all you need to take these steps. That's the only thing you need, a device and access to internet. So here we have where you've accessed the internet on your device and you're visiting Google, okay? Just like you're doing a Google search. But what you're gonna do is, as I've shown you on the screen, take a look. And my favorite red arrow, the red arrow is pointing to the apps launcher. That's that 9-dot grid on the upper right-hand side of your screen. And so with that apps launcher, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're either going to just sign in to your Google account, or, as you can see with my red arrow, you're going to access the account. That image, that icon that says account, you're going to access that. And then my next screen that I'm sharing with you, you're going to see where you create a Google account if you do not already have one. If you do not already have one, or you're going to sign in. Okay, so that's the next step. So as I'm sharing with you here, see our little feature, it tells you, there you go. You're just going to sign in, and that's where you're going to put your information. Okay. And for those of you that have to create an account, it's a very simple few steps. Okay. Let's say I'm signed in. How do you know I'm signed in? Well, if you look at the upper right-hand corner of your screen, the screen I'm sharing with you, you'll see a circle, a purple circle, and it's got the letter G. All that is my My demo name is Grow with Google. So that's what that little G stands for. What you're going to see is the image that displays whenever you sign into your account. Okay, so that's what the little G stands for. What I want to do now, my next step, I'm going to access Google Drive. How do I access Google Drive? Well, once again, I go to that 9 little dots, that little grid on the right-hand corner. I access that, and then I'm going to access Google Drive. Google Drive. You know that the image that you select in the apps launcher in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, when you select it, it's going to give you that same menu of all the different tools. You know that you are accessing Google Drive. It'll say Google Drive, and then it'll have this little image we have here, this little image that I have at the center of my screen where it says a place for all your files. The reason I'm sharing this screen with you is because I like for you to see what it is you're going to see when you very first enter Google Drive. Now, if you've never used Google Drive before and you've never created a file, then your Google Drive is going to be empty. Okay, there won't be anything there. It's empty. Okay? You have your drive, but it's empty. If you're already using Google Drive and today is just to work with these other features and tools I'm going to share with you, then of course you're familiar with Google Drive and that this is where your files are stored. Now, let me talk for just a moment about this idea of your files being stored here. Your files being stored on Google Drive are not saved on your device. They're saved in the cloud, the internet cloud. What happens is that it's just a safe place that you can access that is not on your device. It's not on you're not saving it to your desktop or your PC or your laptop or your smartphone. You're saving it to the cloud. You're saving it away from all your devices, but it is safe. And you can access your Google Drive as long as you can access the internet wherever you are. If you can access the internet on a device and you can log in to your account, your Google account, then you can access your Google Drive and you can access your files. So this is an image of what you will see when you access your Google Drive. This next screen that I'm sharing with you, this is just the applications, the Google applications, the tools we're going to use today. There are other tools. We're just not going to cover everything today. I mean, there's Google Slides and Photos and Chrome and Gmail, but today we're going to focus on 2 of the tools. We're going to focus on Google Sheets and Google Docs. And that's why I'm sharing that with you. Now, this is important. Once you log into your Google account, you can switch between tools. You have access to all of the tools. So just because today is covering Google Sheets and Google Docs, you have to keep in mind that you could easily go and switch over into another one of the tools. You could switch into Gmail, you could switch into Photos, which we're not going to do today for this exercise. But I want you to know that once you're logged into your Google account, you have access to all of those tools. So now let's go to our first practice, and it's going to be creating a to-do list with Google Sheets. This is one of the ways that you can get into this planning process for your business. Okay, so someone has a question about making a form. We're not going to cover that today. Today we're talking about the Google Docs and the Google Sheets. This is why there are many other features. There's many other features that you can use within the Google tools. But today we're focusing on first Google Sheets and then Google Docs. Okay, so let's look at accessing Google Sheets. This is one of the first things we're going to do within this workshop, is we're going to create that to-do list within Google Sheets. So you are going to first click New, which you see on your screen, on the screen I'm sharing with you. Again, this has multiple steps. You're going to receive a handout, or you can work through this on your own and practice it on your own, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is click New. Then this is the important part of the step we want to go in today. You're going to click Google Sheets from a template. As you see, the inquiry, the question that one of our attendees had was about Google Forms. That's another tool. That's why there are so many tools to work with. It's wonderful. That is another tool. So today, we're going to work first with Google Sheets. And as you can see, I made one of my favorite red circles, and I have a red circle on there for Google Sheets. And what you're going to select is from a template. Again, today is just an exercise where I give you an example of some steps to take. There are so many directions you can go in, but this is providing you with the foundation of information that you need, those fundamental steps to get started with any one of these tools. Okay, so that's why we're doing it this way today. And we're choosing, for the purposes of this workshop, we're choosing within Google Sheets to work from a template. Okay, so what we're going to do, since we just selected, we said, okay, Google, I want to work with a template. So what is going to happen is the next thing on your screen is you're going to see the gallery of templates. Mind you, this is one screen share, okay? So I'm focusing in, this particular slide focuses in on this first layer of choices. You don't only have this handful of choices, but these are the choices where at the very top, I circled in red the to-do list. So for the purposes of this exercise, I'm sharing with you the selection of the to-do list. And what this exercise does, and what it does here, is that it gives you the template and we're going to fill in some information. Okay? So we are taking a look. Okay. So some of you have a lot of experience or some experience. So everyone is going to have different levels of experience with the different applications that we talk about today. Okay, so if you have a lot of experience with spreadsheets, then some of the things that I'm going to touch on now are very, very familiar to you. However, some people do not have as much experience with spreadsheets, so this is why I'm going to cover some of these details. So if you take a look at your screen, I'm sharing with you some details. So this to-do list template, this is the to-do list template. This is what it will look like if anywhere you go, if you're home or if you're at the office and you want to walk through these steps, especially after you receive the handout, this is what you're going to see. This is what you're going to see when you select that to-do list template, okay, in Google Sheets. So what I've highlighted here, and I'm sharing my screen with you, what I've highlighted is the fact that A1 is column A, row 1. Column A, row 1. So here, when they say you're going to populate your sheet, it's just whatever it is you're going to enter into your sheet. Now, this is a little bit more when we talk about Google Sheets, we're talking about spreadsheets, right? So in spreadsheets, just the fundamental concept is that you're going to have cells, these little squares that we fill in a spreadsheet here. That this is designed in such a way that it's a template. You're not doing this one from scratch. You're going to be able to type into each cell here and put in your own information or data. And the way it works with the spreadsheet is that your cell is organized into rows and columns. Rows and columns. So we have column A, row 1, and that's what I have here, why I have that arrow pointing to it. So that's a little bit that has focused more on the element of spreadsheets, but spreadsheet is what you're working with when you're working with Google Sheets. Here, we're going to let you know that all of this is where you're going to add a task and then a date for the task. And just here's some examples on your screen. Everything we're doing and all the information that I'm saying we're going to add in as a task or a date, that's going to change depending on what you want to enter into your spreadsheet. These are just examples for the purposes of this workshop. So again, here is where in that cell, I just have it highlighted. We're in this example. See how it says you can even delete a row. And there's all kinds of things you can do to change the formatting. We're going to sometimes change the way our images look. And here on the screen, what I'm having automatically populated is the task of preparing the budget for review. You'll see that being shared on your screen. Okay. And there's some different ways that you could type in the date. All of that has to do with formatting and how that's going to look on your screen. And here it's automatically, just as an example for you, is how we can type in that we're going to create a meeting agenda. And then you could come in and select the date that you're going to create that meeting agenda. Okay. And we're going to go on to the next one. Okay. Here, we're going to do something that has to do with your team. This has to do with your team. And it's the idea, and as I speak and tell you a little bit about the team, you'll see that I'm automatically making some changes here on your screen. And it's changes to, I've just made changes on some of the colors. Okay, that's part of the formatting. Now, what I have here, and I have it circled in red, I called it owner. I called it owner. Basically, what I'm talking about there with owner is just whoever is the person that owns a particular task. Okay? It's not a business owner, it's just a task owner. Who did you assign to have that task? And again, you're going to do this depending on the names of the people that are on your team. Here, the examples are Paul, Heather, and Thomas. So you're going to walk through these steps. Again, you're going to have a handout available to you. Some of this, I'm going to go a little bit more quickly because, in the interest of time. But here, you're going to see that, look at all the different things you can do when you're filling in this project. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to go back to that screen. We're going to create a meeting agenda. Now, this is indeed going to come back to the spreadsheet and the to-do list. Now, the owners of the tasks, the Paul, the Heather, and the Thomas, those could be your coworkers or your teammates. For the purposes of this exercise, we're calling them teammates. Okay? So when you do this on your own for practice, you can fill in whichever names you like. These names are just for practice for the purposes of the workshop. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a meeting agenda. Okay, so we've created the to-do list, and now we're going to create a meeting agenda. Okay, so we're going to access Google Docs this time. So remember, we're going to go to our apps launcher, the 9 dots, and we're going to look for Google Docs, and that's the next thing that you're going to open. So here, if I want to create a new Google Doc, well then how do I do that? How do I create a new Google document? Well, we're going to walk through the steps here. So you're going to select New. Remember, you did the same thing for Google Sheets. This is all starting to look very familiar. And the more you practice this, the more smoothly you're going to find that this works. Each tool works in a very similar fashion, especially if we're going to open a template. So on this one, once again, you select New, you select Google Docs, and then you select From a Template. Okay? Google Docs and From a Template. And I may come back to this screen. Let me take a look. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look. We said we wanted a template. So once again, very similar to the way we did in Google Sheets to make our little to-do list spreadsheet. Here, we're going to a template gallery. Now, let me remind you that I know that this sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming when there's so many different choices on the screens. You're just going to walk through each of these tools one step at a time. I recommend, and I'll recommend this once again at the close of this workshop, you're going to practice this. You may have more experience with one tool than another. Let's say you've used Google Chrome and Google Calendar. We'll talk about that a little bit later because that's coming up for our next workshop. But let's say there's other tools within all the applications and all the tools in Google. Maybe there's some that you're more familiar with than others, and that's great. So you're just going to need to look at these tools and see, oh, well, this is a tool I'm not very familiar with. Let me go ahead and get some practice. So that's really what I highly recommend, that you practice. You're going to get the handout in your email and that you practice these steps. The other important aspect of all of this is that with all the Google tools that we use, it's very what we call user-friendly, very user-friendly with all these tools. What happens is that Google will prompt you. So on the screen, you're going to see these choices. What do you want to do next? It's going to show you suggestions. You're not left all by yourself wondering what to do next. That's the beauty of these Google tools. That's why we're sharing this. That's why the Forward Public Library with the Grow with Google series has made this part of our programming for adult services and especially for our business owners, new business owners. So this is why, because these tools are all only very useful, but you can walk through steps and always practice to get used to using these tools. And all of them are free of cost once you have your Google account, which is also free of cost. So we're going to go back to our screen. We're on Google Docs, and we're looking at the template gallery, and we're selecting Google Notes. Okay, so what you're going to see is that this is just an example. Remember, I said that I placed several names. I put Paul and Heather and Thomas. These are the names of my teammates. So if these are my business teammates, then, okay, I want to have a team meeting. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I've got my document open. It's a template. But in the template, you just place your cursor and you start typing. It's automatically going to type over the text that is there. The text that is there, oddly enough, a lot of it is in Latin. It's just placeholder. It's what Google calls placeholder. So that when you go in and you decide to type, When I decided to type the date, as you see here on your team meeting, I put Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. Well, there was something else in the place, just as the placeholder. And once I started to type, then my text showed up on the document, okay? One very useful thing for you to know is that once you're working with files in Google Drive, they're being saved. They're automatically being saved. You do not have to worry that, oh, wow, I've been working for 10 minutes and I haven't been saving. It's saving it for you. It's saving it for you on the Google Drive, which is present in the cloud, so to speak, where you can access it as long as you can access internet and go into your Google account. Okay, so it is being saved. Now, if, as you saw on my previous slides, how I was automatically changing the color and the look of the fonts, the look of the image as far as the cell, changing it from green to blue or red, well, that's just your formatting. Okay, and what I've done on this slide, and I'm sharing it with you, I put a big red circle, and that's just your formatting bar. You can do what I call play practicing. You can go in and change your text. I circled it here so that you can see that you could change the style of your text. You can do whatever you like to make your text in your document here in Google Docs. You can make your text look the way you want it to look. Keep in mind, we're taking steps because in just a moment, we're going to look at how we're going to get others on the team. Remember my example team were Heather, Paul, and Thomas. Those are teammates, business teammates. So in a moment, I'm going to show you how you can connect and have these other individuals access this very same document. And they can do things with this. They can edit and make changes or not this very same document. Okay? So we call collaborate and share. And so we're going to look at that in just a moment. Here we go. Okay. So let's see the next thing. Okay. Now we're going to talk about inserting a comment. If you look at your screen, and I know that again, I'm reminding you multiple times, this is a lot of steps. Your handouts you're going to get in your email is going to show you everything I'm sharing with you here. So you don't have to memorize all the steps. All of this is going to be there for you. Especially keep in mind that when you follow the steps and you enter your own Google Drive and you decide to create your own document in Google Docs, that this is all these tools are going to be available to you and the help is available to you here on the screen and you'll have access to all the steps. So don't worry about it appearing to be too many steps because you'll be able to do this one step at a time. So here, and as we continue, we had that one question. So be sure to type in your questions as we go along so that I can either address them as we go along. Feel free, the Q&A part at the bottom of your screen, please feel free to type questions in there, okay? So here, let's see, what's the next thing we're gonna do? Okay, I want you to look a little bit kind of toward the center, and it says agenda, and it says in green, it says last meeting follow-up. Take a look at that. And this is just a sample. This is my example to walk us through this process. I typed in, did we order the new tables? Did we order the new tables? Keep in mind, I'm going to be collaborating with my team. And that means that I created a to-do list. There were tasks on the to-do list, right? I did that in Google Sheets. My team and I are working on a project together, okay? Say this example can be an event that we're working on. The important part here is how I'm going to create this document and share with some of those teammates that I have listed. And I call them task owners, because as the tasks happen, the teammates are assigned any particular task, like you would anytime when you're working together. Here where I put, did we order the new tables? Take a look at that. That's a comment. I'm asking a question. So you would think I'm asking somebody a question, right? So here, now here's where there's steps involved. This is something, if this kind of goes to be a lot of steps, don't worry, this is something you're going to practice on your own. Okay, you're going to practice this on your own. So for example, my teammate, the task owner, I listed them in my Google Sheets. Okay, so let's say I want to ask one of my teammates the question, did we order new tables? So that question is going to become a comment on my document. Let's see how we do that. So you can select here where I put, did we order new tables? You're going to use your mouse and right click. Once you're in Google Docs and you're in your document, you right click, this menu is going to show up. And that's why I put my red circle, my favorite red circle there on your screen where you see it and it says comment. Again, if this is a lot of steps, don't worry, you're going to practice with this on your own. You're going to get the handout, you're going to practice all of this on your own. So I want to know from my teammate, did we order the new tables? That's my important question. So I right click and I'm going to insert a comment. So what does that mean, a comment? Well, how are they going to know that I want to know about the tables? Well, take a look. Okay. When you're in Google Docs, you're in your document, I'm in my meeting agenda, I right clicked, I selected comment. Well, guess what? What it's going to do is it's going to give me what you see on your screen that I have circled in red. It is going to let me give a person this comment. In my case, it's a question. Remember, one of my task owners was Paul. He was one of my teammates. I have this question for Paul. I want to know if we ordered new tables. I want to ask Paul. So here is where I enter Paul's email address. Right here on your screen, you see where I enter Paul's email address, and I am going to select comment. Select comment. I will tell you, I recommend that you practice this. Practice. I would first practice by sending this to myself. So where it gives me the option to enter an email address, enter your own address. Take a look at what it looks like when Google Docs, Google Drive sends an email to your teammate. You can actually practice this, or you can practice with your teammate. That's up to you. But for the purposes of this workshop, I'm saying you can just practice by entering your own email and selecting comment. So what's going to happen is they are going to actually get that copy of this email. But now you're thinking, okay, wait a minute. How are they going to get into this document? So I'm going to show you the previous screen again. So if I sent that comment, right there, there's the screen I want. I sent that comment, and in my sample, I put that it's going to Mr. Paul Ryder at his email address, and he is one of my teammates, and he is on the task list. He's one of the task owners on my task list. He's my teammate. I'm sending him an email. That's great. But how is he going to access this document? Well, I'm going to talk about that for a minute. We are going to do what is called share with others. And I'm going to skip back for just a moment. Let's take a look at this screen, because I know there's a lot of things happening on each screen. I wanted to go back. Let's go back to my Google Docs. Let's go back to the screen. Take a look at the upper right-hand corner. The upper right-hand corner says share. It says share. That's where I'm going to share access to my document with my team. I choose who I share this document with. I created the document. I choose who I'm going to share it with. Okay. So here, this next slide, this is where you share your file with others. First thing you're going to do is when you select that share button, it's going to give you some choices. These choices are up to you. Remember, you're going to practice this, so don't worry about it being too many steps. First, I decide who I'm going to share it with. So you type an email address, and I've got that displayed for you on your screen, okay? You're going to type the email address. Then here it says, well, what does that mean? Select access level. What is that about? Well, take a look. What it is, that individual can do a couple of things. They can edit, they can comment, or they can just view. You're going to be able to select here. I will remind you again, this is one of the places where it's so important to practice. Practice doing this before you do this with a real project with your work team, okay? You practice. I would like for you to be able to see what it looks like when an individual receives the email. That's why you can put your sample email as your own. And what does it look like when you let someone edit? What does it look like when you let someone comment? Or maybe this individual is someone you want them to be able to see everything, but you don't want them to be able to change the document. That's where you select Can View, which is the third choice on your list here on your menu of choices. Then the last part here is add a note and kind of in the center. And usually you would add a note if you were sending this information with a teammate. Remember, we selected Mr. Paul Ryder, who is one of my work teammates, and he is also a task owner on my Google Sheets to-do list. Why? Because there are tasks that he needs to do. And remember, the comment that I asked is, did we order the tables? Well, I want Paul to know what's going on here with this document. He's part of my team, he's involved in this, and he is the one that has been assigned the task of working with these tables, and have they been ordered yet? So that's why in this example, this is just an example, that has been assigned to Mr. Paul Ryder, and the comment was going to go to his email. So here, you're going to get familiar with this, you're going to practice this, no need to worry, because when you practice, it's not an actual big project where a lot of things are, something might happen if you make a mistake with this. Practice it, practice sending it to yourself. You could even have one of your coworkers or somebody on your small business team. You can say, listen, I'm going to practice this. I'm getting closer and closer to making this an actual document that I share with the whole team. Can I email you some of this? Let's take a look at what it looks like. Those are just some of the options. It's entirely up to you how you practice working with this. okay? And keep in mind, you can always type in questions in the Q&A. Okay, so taking a look at the screen here, you're going to be able to share access with different files, with different groups and different individuals. Here on my screen, I have where you can control who sees your files. Remember, I happened in my choice for this workshop of the 3 individuals that I listed on my task list. I decided that Paul was the one that I was going to give access first and have him see these comments in the entire document. Now, when you give someone, I'm going to go to the previous screen, when you give someone the ability to comment and edit, remember you're going to practice this, because once you give them that ability, then they can actually make changes to the document. They can make changes to the documents. So depending on what this document is, that's why I want you to just do practice first. Some people you're going to choose that this work teammate that you are sharing this document with, you might want them to have the ability to comment on the document. So they can comment the same way you did when you typed in, when I typed in, did we receive the tables yet? They're going to be able to do that same type of commenting on the document. The important thing about this is, as we look at this next slide, first of all, I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable typing in any questions into the question and answer area on our screen. Alexis is monitoring that. First and foremost,
we do have one question, Liz.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Let's see. What I am seeing here is, I can see the open question is the one that Jeanette made about using forms. I'm going to have Alexis use her audio and share with me the next question. What is that question, Alexis?
Jeanette did ask, what about making a form to be used offline?
Okay, that one I answered that one earlier on, but I think maybe she had exited the webinar, possibly because of the sound issues. Using Google Forms is another tool. It's another tool. In the menu of tools, along with, oh yes, there you are. I'm glad you're still here. So along with Google Docs and Google Sheets, we do have, there are Google Forms. That's a wonderful thing. There's so many tools, So, and it's excellent that Jeanette asked that question, because thank you so much, Alexis. Thank you. The great thing about it is, once you get practicing using these tools, you can do the same type of practice with these other tools that are available to you. You go in to the Google Drive, as we did earlier today in our workshop, and I would, again, I'm very big on practicing with these tools. I would go in, select Google Docs, select Google Sheets, or select Google Forms, any of the tools available. I would select and then create one from a template. Then you get to look and see, okay, so what is available to me using this particular tool, right? So that's why, for workshop purposes, I select, and Grow with Google does select certain tools that we're going to work through. For business purposes, we select a couple of tools. And then in the interest of time of what we can cover within one workshop. However, those steps of practicing where you select Google Sheets and then you create from a template, you can do that with the other tools and walk through the steps. And because, mind you, these Google tools are very user-friendly. You can always walk through the steps so that you can get familiar with the tool and practice. So here, what I wanted to share with you on this particular slide was that you're thinking about sharing with others. It's the same principle that we just covered. You share. See that's the same share on Google Docs, share Google Sheets. Google Docs, we've got images in blue here on our screen. Google Sheets, we've got images in green, but it's the same process when it comes to sharing. So it would be exactly the same process when you're practicing sharing with someone. Maybe you're already ready to where you think you want to share with one of your business coworkers, and you just want to send them a file, give them access, take it, go back and forth with your teammate, asking them, how, if they receive the file, and practice with that. Okay, same concept. Main thing, this is the ability to collaborate. So if I can highlight one thing about all these tools, when you're using Google Drive and when you do this concept of sharing, this is really in my opinion, it is amazing virtual collaboration on a document where you decide what access that individual, in this case it's for business purposes, coworker, teammate, what access that individual has to the document and what they can do to the document. This means all of this work is done virtually through these Google tools. And the other thing to highlight is there is not a monetary cost associated with this. There isn't some fee you're going to have to pay. It's not like that. All you do, you create that Google account and you start doing this wonderful collaboration with your team. There is so much you can do. These workshops are for new businesses, small businesses, those who are considering starting their own business. This applies to a lot of different people can use these tools. Again, my focus being more on those who are interested in a small business or maybe already have one. And this is a great way to collaborate with your team. Collaborate and plan. And that's what these tools can do to make you and your team, whether your team is, sometimes people work just by themselves, but your business could be with multiple people, like a large team. Okay, you will need to have a Google account. And if you have a Google account, this is when I'm addressing a question from Jeanette. If you have a Google account, you normally, it's automatic. You have access to Gmail. But if an individual has a Google account and you're typing in a different email, then that's the email that will receive the information. They will need to access the Google account though, okay? So the email address may be different, but they're going to need to be able to access the Google account. So that's the one thing about working with Google tools is you need to be able to operate within a Google account. Although there could be multiple different types of domains that are your your email address, that they will need to be able to work within the Google account. All right, so here, that's what I wanted to emphasize. Also that there are multiple tools. The reason I mentioned the multiple tools is because today is workshop 2 of a 4-part series, the Grow with Google series with us at Fort Worth Public Library, our adult services programming. We are a partner with Grow with Google. And this is workshop 2 of 4, right? And what we have next week will be March 24th, Wednesday, 4 p.m. And all of you, if you're registered for today and you're here with us today, You have access through the email at which you registered. You have access to, of course, today and the next 2 webinars in the series. So next Wednesday, March the 24th, we're going to work with communicate with Google Calendar and Gmail. Google Calendar and Gmail. So we're going to talk a little bit about Google Calendar and Gmail next Wednesday at 4 p.m. So the last in the series of 4 workshops, the last one will take place April 7th. You have this in your confirmation email, but I just want to touch on it, is that the last in the series is April the 7th, again, Wednesday, April 7th, 4 p.m. And it's Collaborate, Work, and Meet Remotely. That's the title of the last of our 4 workshops. So everyone that is registered for this Grow with Google series with Fort Worth Public Library that we're sharing, everyone that is registered, those email addresses, your email address will receive a copy. It's a PDF file. It's a copy of all of these slides. It's a file of all of the slides that we have seen today. Now, the recording, as soon as the recording is available, then I will share that link with the individuals, again, those of you through the email address that you've registered for the series. Again, I apologize that we had some problems with the audio, the sound. So our videographer here at Fort Worth Public Library will need to maybe adjust the very beginning of our webinar today, only because of the sound, but hopefully I repeated the necessary information, once our sound got fixed there, and I thank Alexis, my teammate, so much for helping me with those sound issues. However, the recording will be made available, and the way it's made available, when I notify you that you can have access to it, is through the Fort Worth Public Library YouTube channel. Okay, so that's one of our social media channels, and I want you to also know to please keep up with all the different programs that we offer. And we, Alexis and I, are Adult Services Programming. And Adult Services is rolling out lots and lots of different programs and services, and we want your input. And how do we get your input? Well, as soon as this webinar ends, please, you will see a survey evaluation. Please take the time to fill that out. It won't take long, but what it does is it helps us to better know how to serve you. You'll give me feedback on this specific webinar workshop, this particular one about digital skills for everyday tasks, but then there's other comment areas, and you can please fill that out. We really need your feedback. Your feedback is very important to us. So we are pretty much at the close. If there are any last minute questions, please place them in the Q&A box. Any questions or comments? Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you, Jeanette. Oh, she'll be back next week. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your questions. Your questions are essential, especially because sometimes someone will type a question, but then maybe many other people are thinking that very same question, or somebody that will later view the recording, or a friend or a coworker, part of your team, your business team might be watching the recording or looking through the handouts and have the same types of questions. Okay, so again, look in your email for the handout. It's the next couple of business days. I'll have that out to you, and I'll make that available to you so that you can walk through the practice. And I sure hope that I get to see everyone else. I'm going to give another last huge thank you to my colleague and teammate, Alexis Carter, for not only keeping up with the question and answer, but saving the day with the audio issues. So we thank her so very much. And I look forward to seeing everyone next week. Keep an eye out on our Fort Worth Public Library website for all the services we offer and the programs, and our social media. And that again includes the YouTube channel. And we also have events and such posted on our Fort Worth Public Library Facebook and all our social media. So be keeping up with that. And we will see you, hopefully we will see you next week, Wednesday, March the 24th. I will see you again for Collaborate with Google Calendar and Gmail. And I thank you so much, very much, and for your patience with our audio issues. So I thank you, and we will see you again very soon. Thank you so much. You have a great afternoon.